All right, so what I have on the screen is the handout with the tulips that you have. And so this one, I kind of wanted to give you an example. Some of them in here are what to do, what not to do, and then I'll go over some of the other ones as well. So with extension, with Master Gardeners being part of the extension program, and with us putting this on YouTube and on our website, because we have the links to all of the presentations for Lunch and Learn on our website to go to be able to find it. So if anyone new moves to the county or is looking at things, they can go to those links and find it if they can't find it on YouTube. And so we recently, I guess about a month ago, someone emailed me from the Ohio Extension Office for state extension, and they were a county agent up there, and they had seen Teresa's petition from last January, Lunch and Learn, and he was going to do his own on that. He wanted to be able to use her PowerPoint and wanted us to send it to him. So it's out there for anyone across the nation to see. So that's why we kind of wanted to have this. Just kind of go over some tips and tricks on kind of how to navigate through them. That way we don't necessarily have to worry about it after the presentation. It's already good to go beforehand. We can put it on YouTube, on our website, and it's good to go, and that we don't get any phone calls asking why it was either poor quality or they couldn't read it or something like that. So I love tulips. They're my favorite flower. So that's why I put that as the background. But you can't necessarily read the words very well. And if you were to put it in black for the font, it'd be the same way. You couldn't really read it very well. So really white is the only font to go. However, it doesn't look very professional still. I mean, it's just not very presentation wise and everything. It doesn't look very well. And so I wanted to kind of give that as an example that if I was teaching about tulips, I would love to have something like that, but it doesn't necessarily fit the way to do it. So wanted to give that as an example. So the rest of this slide, or this PowerPoint right here, is kind of what to do and what not to do. So not the main part, but one of the parts on a presentation is to limit the text you have on each slide. And so we'll have some examples as we go forward as to what is not a good example for that. I know that we have a lot of information that we want to cover within 45 minutes to an hour during Lunch and Learns or any kind of program. But if you have a slide that is just packed full of text, it's really hard for the audience to read. And it's also hard for you if you're having to stand here and kind of navigate yourself through it of what sentence you left off of, or make sure that you're following along correctly, make sure your audience is following along correctly, stuff like that. So if you can avoid big paragraphs, have just little bullet points of just 3 to 5 words, and then elaborate on the bullet points. That's what we're here for, is to teach, not really having to stand up here and read word for word of what is on the screen. I want to be able to have a few bullet points and then elaborate on those bullet points, answer questions about what's on there. Go to this next one so I know. 2 on there. So this is just something that I got off of a teacher website, so it's not gardening related at all. It's a lot of history. So this is an example on the left about way too much text. If I had that on the full screen, you probably wouldn't be able to read it at all, and it would be hard for me to stand here and figure out where I was on unless I had that memorized. But I'm probably not going to have that whole thing memorized, so therefore that'd be too much to stand here and read on.
And for the most part, the white text is just not a good plan.
It is. It is. It's very pretty to have a background like that, but at the same time, just a plain solid color background will go a long way. I know it's fun to do some pretty flowers or plants, and obviously I have the tulip on the front, but it's just really hard to read your text whenever you have a picture background like that. If you want to have examples, that's totally fine. But having it as a whole background is kind of hard to navigate sometimes. This one on the right, that is better. It does have just a picture. It has some bullet points. And then below it, it's explaining what that picture is. So if you were to put a picture of an oak tree and you want to put the variety of it, below it you could put what variety it was and then be able to kind of elaborate on why that's on the slide. Maybe the tree care, the diseases that go with that, to go on the left beside it, just to kind of help you go forward with that. I know so this paper, the front and back, that's just words. It is some tricks and tips on how to, whenever you're creating your presentation, and I think it says 24 font is the best is the best size to go.
No
The
small.
smallest, that's the smallest.
I'm sorry, yes, the smallest size to go, and really the area that we're in for the church for Lunch and Learn, that is a big area. So honestly, you could go up even higher, and there's no minimum amount of slides you have to have. So if you have 30 point font, you can have up to 25 slides if you need to space it out even more. That way you're not having these big words all jumbled together onto the screen. So I think there is an example of that in one of the ones that I shared. That was not a good example. Yes. Is that a better size with it being bigger like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So they used that same slide from 2 slides ago, and they almost made it to where it fits the whole background, but you can see there's still a little bit of space right there. If you wanted just to have a one picture and be able to talk about it, then make that picture your slide background. That way it fits the whole screen. Otherwise, it looks like just a picture on there. It's just not as uniform on there. And one thing I didn't add earlier, I can send y'all, or if y'all want to send me your presentations beforehand, I can send you I can add, or I can send it to you, the Leon County Master Gardener logo, if y'all don't have it, and I can put that on the very front of your presentation as well. That way, when it goes online, it has your name and it has Leon County Master Gardeners on there as well. Yeah. That way, no one can take it from you because you made it, and you're Leon County Master Gardener. So avoid colorful backgrounds. Like I said, I had the tulip one. Maybe it's a big tree, maybe it's a little bit of a river or a creek in there, and you want to add text on top of that. It's just very hard to follow along. So use solid colors. You can use a light kind of pastel color. Just kind of help yourself with what color font you're going to do. If you want to come up here and plug it into the big screen and stand in the back and kind of see what it looks like as well, that's great. I do like a little bit lighter colors on my background instead of like a royal blue, because the black's going to be hard to see, and then you have to use white. Mm-hmm. Like Teresa said, the white is just really hard to see from a distance. It makes it too bright, and you're kind of having to squint your eyes a little bit to figure out what it's saying. So you can use color. White is obviously just the best way to do. I know it looks boring, but you'll be able to teach your content better with a solid color versus a solid light color versus a solid dark color. So here was one. Yes, they made the picture the entire background, so it looks nice. The picture looks nice, but they just did words to where you can't even, it's supposed to say the word crossing, but you can't really tell that because there's black on his outfit as well. So this could have been moved up. That might have looked better. It could have been a different color. That could have been in white. Again, would that have looked great up here? Not really sure. So that's just not a good, it's a good example for the picture. As far as the words on there, no. So they wanted to put a little description on there of what this picture is. Well, as a teacher, that's what your job is once you have a picture up there to explain to the audience what that is. So really, the wording is not even necessary on this part, because that's what you're doing. It's supposed to be educating us on what the picture is anyway. So they could have deleted all those words right there and it would have been just fine. So this is another example. That's honestly not too terribly bad. It just depends on how big you want that photo. So if it was a plant you're trying to show a certain part, maybe you're grafting something or trying to put something, when you want to have it bigger, then maybe get away with that and do like that one instead, just to be able to zoom in more on it. But that one looks great too, I think. So yes, images, that's what you also want to use, and it helps get your point across your presentation, especially if for Lunch and Learn, how you're sharing your own experience with things, of what's worked with you, what hasn't worked with you. We want to see pictures of from beginning to end on what you have grown and what you've experienced. Just make sure it's not fuzzy and blurry. Sometimes it looks good on your phone, and then once you put it onto your computer presentation, it just gets fuzzy and it's not clear. So again, if you want to come up here and use this stuff, you can do that. If you want to, even whenever I try to print stuff out, it'll look fuzzy and stuff too. So even some of the flyers that we've created before, whenever those get printed out, the wording just doesn't look right. So you never really know until it's time to do the action with it, and you're trying to print it out and put it up here. Then you're like, oh, that was a bad choice. So this is open for y'all to come use if y'all would like to. If you want to send it to me, and then I could do it myself and tell you yes, it worked, yes, it didn't work, something like that. We got some Pokemon on here. So this Pokemon doesn't really go with the American Revolution. So that's just an example of that, to where you're talking about tulips, you don't want to put a rose on there, or something, something like that. Like, you want to make sure that you're using the correct content to go with what you're. The fonts, that is choosing the correct font is a big piece, especially whenever I'm making flyers for things. You want to do stuff that's very pretty and looks professional, but sometimes whenever you get it enlarged, it's just really hard to read. Or you may use different types of font throughout your entire slide. You may have 4 different types of font on there, and that's hard to follow too. So really just, I think Comic is one that I like to use a lot. That's just a regular font that is pretty easy to read for all ages, really. And that's not, especially, I know that we don't really teach to the youth, but if you were, they can't read cursive very well. So if you use a font that's kind of cursive, they're not gonna be able to follow along with that. Maybe if you want to have your name on the very front slide as a cutesy font, then that's totally different, because then it's just your name. But if you're doing your content or something like that, then that's totally different. You may not want to be able to do that. Just that way you don't.
In my presentations, a lot of times, a lot of the letters might be black, and then it might be a word in red or something,
okay.
Just kind of
to kind of bold it.
Yeah.
I don't like, and again, I'm supposed to be getting cataract surgery, so I'm
Ooh.
not a good one to be talking. But who traveled with the core of this? I find that hard to read.
Yeah, that's.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because it's white with red outlined of it, and so that looks something like a teenager would choose.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so this is just another example as well. If that was just on a piece of paper, you could probably read it. But if you're in the back of the room, or even honestly, it's not great from up here as well.
and it's pretty, but it's hard to read.
And if we didn't know that
It's
that
too
was that
busy.
way,
Mhm.
It's too
No.
we'd
busy.
have a hard time figuring it out.
Yeah.
How was she a
Too busy.
husband? I didn't.
Too busy.
Yes, it says husband to. So she likely had little choice in the matter. Not really. So yeah, so this is very busy, like Kathy mentioned. There's way too much. Again, if you just want to, put maybe just one of these boxes, and then you as the educator should know what else to include on here. It is great to have handouts. Sometimes if I include just a regular PowerPoint, and then I make a handout with further information on there. Mm-hmm. That way they can have themselves in front of them, and then it's not as busy up here. And that helps sometimes. That way, if they don't get to, if they're writing them down, then like they have what you were going to tell them on paper already, so it's not as big of a deal. And this one just says be consistent. So if you choose to have 1 to 3 slides that are red in the background, try to have the rest of them as far as the background goes. Like I said, if you want to bold some words with either black bold or red bold or highlight it, that's totally different, because you're emphasizing those words throughout the presentation. But as far as the display of it, be consistent with your font and with the colors that you're choosing for the background and for your colors of your font as well.
So we shouldn't do rainbow backgrounds, is that what you're saying?
Correct. No rainbow, no pretty tulips, something like that. So this one is better. It's not cursive font. However, it's still not the same font across the board. It's different ones. Yes, it's more. It's better to read from across the room, even and from where I am. However, This one is in bold. If it probably wasn't bolded, it'd be looking a little bit better. But with it being bolded like that, with all the words, just kind of, it's almost like a paintbrush.
There's still one more. There's still one more entry on there.
Ah,
And I'm
oh,
sitting
see,
there going,
that-
oh my
that was
god,
not
that's just too much. Stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so be consistent with your font, the font size across each slide. If you're able to kind of work on that, sometimes it requires it to be bigger or smaller depending on whatever you're trying to get across on the picture or something like that. And then the background, because really that yellow doesn't fit in very well with all this either, just because everything else is red except for the coins are. Yeah. Yes. So that's the end of that one. That was there's some better parts of it, and then majority of it was just of what not to do. So you can keep that one. I will say Extension does have a website that agents are able to go to, and we can search in Oak Tree, and there's several options for us to choose from, and that we're able to use for presentations, for our reports. And that is Extension
great.
photographers have taken, and it's able to where we're able to put it on public things because we got it from that website. So if you're looking for something like that, let me know, and I can just search whatever you're wanting to search.
That would solve the problem
Yes.
a lot, because sometimes I just, I need a picture and I image whatever it is.
Mhm.
You're saying that we're not
So the next one is this one, the gray PowerPoint. I just printed it off. This one was probably 80 or so pages, and I did not include that. I wanted to show you just another example, because this is actual horticulture stuff, of an example of a slide that has too much information on it. So if you flip the page, it talks about garden locations and the size of garden that you want to try to build for your vegetable garden. But that's a lot of words on that slide.
It is, even on the
First
The
page.
white?
The white.
Mhm.
is not good.
white on that background is
Mhm.
terrible.
And I feel like that is an extension. Now this is obviously from 09, so it's been years ago. I think that this is an extension template that like I would have access to. And so, but you can also, even if you were to if you were to choose a template like that, you can change the color of the background as well. But yes, the white on there is kind of hard to read, and then it's just packed full. It's good information. It's definitely great to have. It's just too much on those slides. And I will say this one was like 84 slides long, so it was already a big presentation. But it could have been longer if he would have just
Do these come up one at a time, or they come up
all together.
all together? They
I'm
come up
sorry.
all
Did you
together.
have them
This is my
animated?
doctor. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so all these words come up at once. So it's not that they ease on into it like the other one did, where I could push it every second and it would just once come up. It was all at once, and that was just really overwhelming. Even whenever I was like, oh, like on my computer, that's a lot, right in my face. It's all good information. It's just way too much at one time. So, but the pictures, if you keep flipping, the pictures are decent quality. I would have liked to see them like the one on slide number 9 on the back page. That one I think could have been an entire background instead of just a picture on there. The very last one, that one is probably okay because you have a title of what you're trying to explain it is. And for those who aren't there in person, that's great to include as well, because then they know, watching it at home, watching it later, that is what you're trying to explain. So these are much better. I just wanted you to see an example of some horticulture items for you to be like, oh, okay, so I can add those, those photos like that, and that would make sense. And there's no words on the garden designing of how big you should have your dimensions, stuff like that. It's just a picture, and then that gives you time as the educator to talk about your slide and elaborate more on what you're wanting to get across to your audience.
So this one, the one, slide 7,
Mm-hmm.
what I would have done is made that 2 slides.
Yes, to make it bigger.
And that way you could talk about one, and then you could talk about the other, and it gives you a chance to see more of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Just as
It's a good idea. Yeah, so that's for you to keep as well, just to have an example of if you think maybe you have too many words on there, you want to think, well, let me go back and look at this one that I was given that day and kind of see. And I'm glad that the font is bigger on those slides because that is easier to read. However, it's just still way too much. And I think just the white is just what's throwing it off as well.
Well, even the heading is a cool heading. I mean, when you look at it really close, but it's got enough white in it that it just, to me, I find it straight. But again, I don't have my new lens in yet, so.
But you're going to.
That's right. It's coming.
And then the last one is one that I got off my files that Richard left me. And so, since y'all knew him and how he was able to do presentations, so I thought it was a really good one. Mm-hmm. He did a lot of bullet points that were not jumbled all together. Mm-hmm. They were spaced out. All the photos look great. And this one again was also probably 80 or so slides, which is perfectly fine if that's how many it takes for you to make it look more presentable. And that may just take some practicing on getting it in under an hour if you're doing lunch and learn, but it looks much better. The chart on slide number 5 on the 3rd page, that one might be a little iffy because you can't quite read some of the words on there. But I think if it was maybe on the screen, it would look better.
Plus, that is kind of a classic thing. That
slide
diagram is. How many times we've seen that?
I think 15 and 16, they probably had that in their hands when he was talking to them. So he's really just kind of pointing them to go look at that in your hand.
On the very last page, yes.
Because that's a packet that we have available right up at the front.
Yeah.
Probably so, yeah. Just so, and maybe it was online as well, so he just included that on there. That way they knew which handout that he was referring to, or something like that. So yes, so that's a really good example. It's all white in the background.
White with black.
The all the fonts look good. It's easy to read. He did put the extension logo up beneath his name, so that's why I was saying if y'all want the Master Gardener logo for Leon County, I can give it to you, or if you send me your presentation through email, I'll add it really quickly and I'll send it back to you. Makes it very quick if you want to do that. That way, like Teresa, since the person from Ohio Extension reached out and wanted her PowerPoint, then her stuff was on there, and he was going to give her credit for if it's either at the beginning of your slides or at the very end, if you want to include Leon County Master Gardener as the wording beneath your name, as your title. And then the wording page, the front and back, this just talks a little bit of basically what we discussed in the PowerPoints. Limit punctuation. There is a couple of times in here talks about do not read from your slides. So even if you have the clicker standing here with your back like this, we are going to have a new macro and stuff like that for the next months leading into lunch and learn stuff. So that's going to be easier for everyone in the room to hear. But if I was standing like this, my voice is carrying this way and not to the audience. And so, yes, I may not have every slide memorized, but that's why it's good to have bullet points and maybe just have a paper like this with your notes, with your own personal notes, where you're able to kind of just glance down at it and then elaborate on what you're trying to get across to your audience. So we're not standing here pushing this from go to go, reading off the slide, because it's better as an educator and a presenter if you know your content forward and backward, and you're able to either you walk around, maybe you're doing an activity with them during your presentation to where you don't have to stand up here at the front by the screen and have to read off of it. So the more that you can know your content, know your presentation, that's going to go a long way for the video quality that we're going to put on YouTube and for the audience to fully get to get that full effect on what you're teaching. The font size is on there for you. If you ever need help making a template, or if you just want to send me just your notes that you have, I can make it into a PowerPoint. If you maybe want to put a little highlight, a little star, or put a little star by what you know you want to be on a PowerPoint, Or if you don't know how to put your photos in there, if you're concerned about not looking properly, just email me those photos or text them to me, and I can put them onto my computer and I can insert them. That way, you know that there's been another set of eyes on there that can kind of help figure out how it's supposed to go on there properly. If that helps too.
Or I can say, I really would like a nice picture of an oak tree on this side. And
Can you
go
get that
find
for
me
me?
that oak tree.
Yes. Yes. So this
handy.
I wanted to go over this because since that guy from Ohio Extension reached out, you know, that's across the country, and that was from a year ago, over a year ago, that they found the PowerPoint online and watched the video, and he was already doing a class over that, and he thought it was very helpful. So that's very cool for Leon County and for Teresa to be able to send that off. So I wanted to kind of make sure that we're able to make sure it's, you know, it's done properly and they're able to, it's legible and everything moving forward with it having Extension and Leon County Master Gardeners on there. That way we don't come across any difficulties moving forward with. And that's why I like having an outline like this to be able to, especially with notes. That way this is for you to keep, to where if we don't get to print off the PowerPoint, you at least have this that includes the PowerPoint information and my notes and stuff as well. So it's more beneficial, I think, especially even for me, so I can walk around and do other things and I'll have to be up here looking like that or something like that. And that way, if I want to include anything else on that one slide, it's on here, to where this, yes, the bullet points are, you know, are long, but this is readable. This is perfectly fine. And if you can, you know, try to either have maybe your notes page or your presentation done that Monday, the week of your Lunch and Learn, and send either one of them to me so I can make the surveys that go along with it. That gives me, you know, just 2 days really to do it, but it's really no big deal. It's just, you know, 5 or 6 questions that I put on the surveys. So either one will work if you have petition or the outline form, either one. Or if you just text it to me and just say, I'm going over these main topics, that's fine too.